Chapter 7. The world is going wrong. Time is disjointed. Inayat Khan turns restlessly in his bed, located below ground level, under a cellar window. Outside, it was getting dark, and the pale light of street lamps seeped into the room. The cellar was filled with old junk, as if frozen in place, with dust particles sparkling in the grayish light coming through the window. Underneath draperies on the tables, there were dark shapes of evaporated memorabilia. The frames of pictures on the walls formed dark squares, with their shadows falling on the floor and fading away. In the center of the cellar, there was a delicately shining glass case, calling out for attention. Tiny objects were waiting on many shelves. "Wake up, dear collector. How long will you sleep? We know you're not sleeping." Khan's fingers fumble around the headboard. Without any serious effort, he overturns things and looks for the button on the tape recorder. Suddenly, it seems more pleasant to curl up under the blanket instead. Pedestrian shoes are clicking on the wet pavement outside as they return from work, and Khan makes a desperate effort to get a little more sleep. "Ah, come on," says his exciting toys. "Let us listen to your fun wake-up song." Khan's atrophied heart muscle begins to throb slightly from the little effort, and there is no more sleep. His hand reaches for the headboard, his finger moving over the ivory keys of the tape recorder. Underneath the draperies, the objects are held in suspense. And then there's a click, and before the gentle arpeggios of a guitar and the soft sound of an old electric organ, the tape hisses empty for a few bars. "It's been a long, long, long time. How could I ever have lost you?" A loud thumping drum beat with bass comes in from the left channel. "When I loved you." In pajama pants, Khan rises to a sitting position to the sound of rolling drums. Pushing aside the snakeskins of the sheets, the man puts his feet into his sharp-tipped slippers. His unshaven chin shakes in one last yawn until he opens his big almond eyes wide and puts on his glasses. Khan ruffles his hair and begins to sing along lazily. He has a beautiful voice. "It took a long, long, long time. Now I'm so happy I found you." Hairy belly hanging slightly over his pajama bottoms, he plays the next part on his personal air drums. "How I love you," and presses the switch with his foot. The old bulbs flick on and off, in sync with the drum beat. The filament buzzes for a moment and then goes out. A dodecahedron autographed by the unknown dodecaphonic composer Comte de Pérouse Maîtrise sinks back from the golden light into darkness. When the bulbs light up again, the title on the back of the book, Los Desaparecidos, emerges from the dimness. So many tears I was searching. So many tears I was waiting. This part is catchy. Singing loudly and unashamedly, Khan moves through the basement like a performer. A row of ceiling lights reveals the carefully arranged stuff on the tables. Wooden file drawers rise in alphabetical order. On the wall is a portrait of Nadia Harnoncourt in an oval medallion, a map of the desert of Urg with Ramut Karzai's supposed route to the dunes, to plead an audience with God. And pins mark the places where he might have found his mysterious end on this journey. As he passes, Khan pulls the draperies from the boards, and puzzle after puzzle unfolds before him. 12 miniature golden and green ships with cerussite dragon carvings, barely the size of a thumbnail, lined up. Rows of oars in a deep blue fake sea with white wavy crests. The papyrus yellow sail lines of the little ships are proudly lowered. Men in reed armor stand on board, pennants flapping on their spears. It's the Gonzu expedition of 1,000 men, more than 3,000 years ago. They are searching for peaches that can make the emperor immortal, never to return. 2.5 millennia later, signs of their settlement are found to the east, in the Anise Islands. The Gonzu expedition could not return. The emperor was cruel and fierce, a tyrant, and there are no peaches that can make one immortal. All these beloved objects, trinkets, things left behind, somehow touch Khan. And how it stings! How odd! He has never fully understood what it is. And yet a smile appears on Khan's mouth, a smile of a fat cat who is getting its chin scratched. Above the desk on the stand, under the light of a green desk lamp, is all about the girls. Newspaper clippings, scattered notes, and there in the middle, copy of Malin's letters. The handwriting analysis is extraordinarily 95% accurate. The letters arrived a year and a half after the last day in Charlottesville. To the girl's parents. Everything is fine. We're with a man, says someone who says she's Malin. We love you. Khan puts the coffee pot on the burner, and the song turns soft and quiet, like in the beginning. It's his favorite part in the whole world. He could listen to it forever. He shakes his head with a bitter smile and puts his hands over his heart. Now I can see you, feel you. How did I ever misplace you? Outside, you can hear the wheels turning as the machine stops in front of the house. It starts to drizzle, and raindrops can be seen on the basement window. The tape recorder makes a click, and the song ends. There is a calendar on the door where no one has bothered to turn the page for 2 months. It's still August, and under the 28th is written, International Day of the Missing. It's the 28th of August, just in their honor. That's the day. Eenie, your friend Jesper is here. Brush your teeth, Khan's mother shouts from the kitchen upstairs. The man pulls on his top-stitched dressing gown and makes his way up the basement stairs. In the middle of the room, in a glass case, sits Harnoncourt. 2 years ago. The crystal goblets are ringing. Saturday night bustle in the Telefunken Tower restaurant. Behind the panoramic windows, Vasa spreads out. A slim ghost. Darkness, snow, and lights. The prices are expensive here, but not like tastelessly expensive. This is not the way. The clientele has too much social nerve for that. The food is 5-star, but the company? Higher class. Look, there's the president of the communications department with his wife, and the CEO of the Fry Bank with the charming singer Pernilla Lundqvist, and a Vesper businessman having dinner. The charming singer is eating a salad with olives, while the CEO recommends crawfish to a Vesper business partner. It's delicious here. You have to try it. And him there, next to the bearded professor, isn't he Conrad Giselle, 4-time Oscar Zorn nominee? A very intelligent man. The CEO of Frybank is, of course, wearing pea black. Out of his mind. And look, there's a 30-year-old loser. The loser still lives in his mother's basement. The loser is wearing the same light blue shirt he graduated from primary school in. We hate you, loser. Who let him in? It's so sad to watch. He's probably on a date. So pathetic. The woman hasn't said a word to him for 10 minutes. Listen to that silence. I would hang myself. How about if I give him some money? Just a little bit, like 10 real. Maybe he'd feel better. Disgusting loser. Don't give him anything. I hate him. He certainly can't pay his bill. He certainly won't. Hysterical laughter. That wine alone is like 40 real. Ha 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 ha! I hate you, loser. Die. I hate you so terribly. Khan is sweating again and tries to cover his ears with his hands. Shaking his head, blinking his eyes, anything to end this barrage of humiliation, until suddenly, silence. A brunette woman with a sharp face sitting opposite him twiddles with the wine glass. The boredom is suffocating. The woman glances at the panoramic ceiling, at the dark brown, beautifully shaped table under her arms. Then, suddenly, a flash of inspiration. "It's a beautiful place. There's a new design here, I think. I remember the last time I was here, everything was completely different." Khan's face lights up. Yeah, my friend made it. He likes this kind of stuff, minimal and clean. I haven't quite figured out exactly what's up with it now, but I think he kind of invented it. He's quite famous." "De la Gardie?" "Jesper, yes." "You know him? He's so talented." "Oh, of course. Jesper and I have been friends for a long time, before he became famous. To be perfectly honest," Khan smiles nervously, "I don't think I would have gotten reservations here if, well..." "Ah, I was wondering." "What were you wondering?" Khan asks, but the brunette woman doesn't answer. It's silent again. Khan glances across the floor at the guests, who, for a moment, don't seem to look back at him in contempt. Back at Conrad Giselle's table, he sees a woman introducing a skinny man with blonde hair to the documentary filmmaker. The waiter, too, notices his presence and rushes to serve the gentleman a regular, ice water with a slice of lime. In a dark gray waistcoat suit and a lime wedge between his teeth, the gentleman looks very young and somehow elegantly sleepless. The chic way he shows off his plain T-shirt under his jacket is unmistakable. He can afford it. The shirt has the iconic album cover of a famous dance artist. "Jesper!" Khan exclaims inappropriately loud across the tables. His date flinches a little and then looks questioningly towards Giselle and Jesper's table. "There he is!" Khan says cheerfully, as if relieved, to the brunette across the table. He stands up so that his friend can better see where Khan is. "Jesper, hey!" Like this, with sweat stains on the armpits of his frilled shirt, he stands in the middle of Telefunken's panoramic restaurant and watches as Jesper furrows his eyebrows in annoyance, spreading his arms in the direction of Conrad Giselle. He pretends not to know him. "Ow!" It's a hot Saturday afternoon, 18 years ago, and a rosehip bush has just scratched Annie's leg under her short skirt. The girl steps angrily out of the bushes, and Jesper, the doctor, trots to her side. "What happened? Let me see." Annie lifts her skirt just a bit and then gives up. It's nothing. Silly bushes." "Ooh." She stops halfway through the word, and her mouth looks like that vowel. "So beautiful." "Beautiful," says little Jesper, still seeing Annie's leg in his mind, the pleated edge of her tennis skirt curling up. Khan pushes the bushes aside, and Charlotte and Malin step onto the edge of the cliff, mouths agape. "Really, I can see why you're loitering here all the time. Such a nice wind." The breeze blows Charlotte's auburn hair in her face. The girl squints her eyes, pushes her hair carelessly aside, and goes, The wind tears white petals into the air. It seems as if little Madge in a winged dress is floating above the rustling bushes. She draws shapes in the air with a fairy godmother's wand and feels like the most important person in the world. She is on Therese's shoulders, who doesn't care one bit about the thorns of rosehips. He wades through them and sets Madge down on the grass. Therese is scratched up and smiling stupidly. The salty breeze dies down. The air is redolent with the syrupy scent of flowers. Insects buzz. The 7 of them barely fit on the lawn of the boys' hideaway, and that was the plan. Anyway, Jesper is content. The boys couldn't sleep all night. Grinning, making plans for the next day, sneaking around. You can say that the mood flew away. Therese was against coming to the rock because of the long journey and the thorns. Jesper, along with Khan, found that it was still the best place. And it was. The girls are impressed by the view. Khan introduces the classification, power to go through the pale, and capacity of the Grad antique cruiser glimmering on the horizon. Looks like Malin hasn't started yawning yet. And the best thing? It's windy, but the weather is so warm that Annie still wants to sunbathe. Malin unwraps her beach towel and ends up next to Khan with Madge, who is waddling along. Khan is straining his memory, but unfortunately, he can't say anything more interesting about antique airships. Let Therese and Jesper carry the conversation. He lies on his back and closes his eyes. The orange shimmer of the sun, the sound of water, and the clattering of tools, all cooling down quietly, and in the boy's popular science dream. It's space autumn above in orbit, and the vibration as always. It's starting to get chilly. The faceless, bottomless, epiphyseal membrane spreads beyond the giant ridges. Forgotten in the sky, these ancient communication satellites calibrate their rusty bellies towards the curvature of the earth. Articulated joints of catapults shift position. Boulders screech at the edge of the stratosphere like a flock of cranes, and communication units crackle into the ether. The stratosphere, a cluster of measuring device compound eyes, looks down where the southern coast of Katla Isola blooms briefly in a summer gust. Like a beautiful dream, a landmass dozes in the cool cradle of 1,000-kilometer maps and cycloidal eddies. It's the past, approaching, all-consuming. The pale is all around. But the dark green forests of matter and the white shoreline, the shimmering sun mirror of the North Sea, the Vasa archipelago, and the small Charlottesjal still hold on. And the less matter remains, the smaller the area you compress it into, the more strangely it sparkles. 7 of them lie in a half circle on a green patch on the rocky peak, with the waves crashing below. Up above, there is a cotton ball-like cloud from a castle in the air, and the cloud cities reflect on Khan's curved glasses. He opens his eyes. Charlotte Lund, entirely made of scented matter, pulls her summer dress over her head in one swoop. Her rounded curves and smooth, sun-kissed skin come into view. Therese feels her slender joints. It grazes him. It's hot. Annie is embarrassed about her birthmarks and lies on her back with sunglasses as a headband. Jesper doesn't dare say anything about it, even though he really wants to see them. And Malin, modestly, unties the bow on her dress belt to feel the wind blowing in from underneath her skirt. The dress fabric flutters like a sail. "Cider!" announces Therese, baring his upper body. And indeed, from the depths of his backpack emerges a 3-liter container acquired through an unprecedentedly complex operation last night. Drops of water sparkle on the glass, the hermetic cap hisses open, and a small, vaporous stream of carbon dioxide rise from the bottle's mouth. The apple cider foams and bubbles, the froth accumulating around the bubbles. The girls' mouths water, but little Madge looks confused and sips her lemonade with bits of lemon floating in it. Therese carefully places the cold bottle against Charlotte's hot cheek. His father will find out next weekend that the cider is gone, just when he wants to offer it to the gallery owners and curators at the Cultural Cooperation garden party. But Therese doesn't care. Look how beautiful she is, Charlotte, and how happy it makes her. And his father is just an academic capitulator, a model Koiko, and a bootlicker of usurpers. František the Brave would not think highly of him. "Why are you so quiet?" asks Malin softly, so the others won't hear, and rolls over towards Khan. Annie's ears perk up. "Strange that you should say that, little sock," she teases. "Ah, be quiet," laughs Malin with a soft, warm chuckle that Khan can feel against his ear. "Speak. You always have such cool presentations, in history and natural science." Khan jumps up from his school desk and triumphantly pumps his fist in the air.
Yeah, that peach story was so sweet. Ani, don't interrupt, frowns Malin. Wait, what peach story? Tell us, Khan, it's really loud. That Ilmara, the fleet, and the Emperor? Finally, Khan opens his mouth. Wrong Isola, dude. Samara. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it like that, in a racist way. Very funny, Jesper. Anyway, now Khan turns a little towards Malin, cautiously, to not touch her. You were sick then, I remember. Khan remembers very well. He wanted to postpone the presentation so that the performance would not be wasted, but the teacher did not understand the subtleties of the situation. In Samara, more precisely in Safra, there is such mythology where peaches play an important role. If the Anise Islands have cherries, then they have peaches. They grow there wild. You can pick the peaches from the forest. Apricots, peaches, and nectarines all come from Samara. Even now, a lot of fruit is brought to us from the SRV through the Pale. Malin nods dutifully. Yes, long ago, when Kotlin wasn't even populated yet, the Emperor of Safra sent his most famous explorer to bring back peaches that would make him immortal. 20 years later. The city of Vasa is blue. The ornate lanterns on Königsmalm's rush-hour street gleam. The dark gray dome of the sky and the northern-clad crowd pass under it like a migration of ghosts from a fairy tale. Therese's head is spinning. He hasn't had a smoke in so long. His head is thick and throbbing, nicotine pressing on his eyes, sounds fading, becoming muffled. He sits down on the front steps of the police station, his coat tail underneath him. A slight drizzle moistens his sleepy face. 5 minutes ago, clothes were thrown in his face and he was let go. The last remnants of the dream still linger. They echo in his mind, a monster sliding on the lapping waterline, right beneath his waking consciousness, giving him a throbbing headache. Danger, he usually answers. He is made of violence. But sometimes he says he is the man. He bends the rosehip bushes and looks at them on the rocky peak. He's always there, wanting to tear them apart, but waiting patiently. In the pine forest, where he puffs cigarettes, Therese sees him sneaking from behind one tree trunk to another. He crouches on the edge of Khan's binoculars, down on the beach, holding little Madge, who falls asleep, and the doors of the horse-drawn tram close. He is swallowed, bottomless. Nothing stands under him, and everything can collapse on him at any moment. A few days left. The rest of his life is coming soon. False and terrible. Then, when they go into the water on the last night on the secret beach for girls, he comes to their sheets and sniffs their things. The man chews on a meat pie in oil batter and watches him through the sun blinds. Therese is Agnetha, an ice cream shop worker, and the man has a new face every time he passes by the window. From the corner of his eye, he wears Vidkun Herd like a costume, an adult Khan whom Therese now fears for some reason. And sometimes he is Therese's father. Therese feels ashamed later in the day when he sees his friends there, but there's nothing he can do about it. Slowly, timidly, he makes his way through the crowd, fearing bumping into someone, angering someone. People in dark clothing flow through the streets. At a large intersection, the traffic lights glow and motorized rickshaws come to a stop. Smoke rises from their exhaust pipes, and engines throb. At the crossroad of beltways, he sways along with the crowd, and above him, dimly lit neon lights shine, and a giant lingerie model smiles high on the department store wall. The light of a row of taxi phones. When Therese steps into the cab, it starts to rain outside for real. The cab windows are wet, and someone in Vidkun Herd's memories, or in his own prison dream, Therese is not sure, a monster squats above them and puts the torn bodies of the girls back together into a chimera. You know, the sleet sizzles under the taxi wheel, and the granite rubble rattles. Khan looks out the window. There's one thing I didn't tell you before, about me. The car stops in front of his door.
In solemn.
A brunette woman holds her handbag in her lap. The man opens the door on his side. This doesn't usually come up. It just doesn't. But you could know this about me. That actually... He steps out and leans into the cabin. I'm the world's leading expert on disappearing. Khan slams the taxi door shut, takes 3 steps over the pedestrian road to the external stairs, inserts the key, and enters the hallway of the wooden house. The sound of a motor can be heard from outside, and the machine starts. It's dim and warm inside. Potatoes are boiling in the kitchen. Mom, it was terrible. Khan picks up the phone. The device hangs on the wall, and the numbers are on the keypad in the wallpaper. Absolutely terrible. Don't even ask. His yellow fingers jump on the keys, a 16-digit series. An interinsular connection, at the expense of the responder. Mr. Ambartsumian, I was given your number from an auction. Mr. Ambartsumian is not available right now, the male secretary's voice replies, quietly and from a distance. No, you don't understand. I'm calling about Harnoncourt. I was supposed to receive my airship manual. This is very important. Sorry, can you hear me? The line crackles, and the call is fading into the pale. The noise of time. 2 years later. Have you heard anything from Therese? Jesper asks as soon as he enters Khan's hallway. The sweet smell of poverty wafts into his nose. What is it? Cinnamon? Stale bread? No, I haven't heard anything. I actually wanted to ask you about it. This whole thing. I have to say, it worries me. Khan leads Jesper, his bathrobe fluttering, straight down to the cellar. Clothes! He points to a nail above the stairs. Jesper feels uncomfortable. That same strange smell, just like before. How he dislikes it. He would rather live on the street. He would rather burn all this rubbish down than put up with that smell. Above all, he fears that Khan's poor old mother will jump out from somewhere at any moment. But Khan insisted unyieldingly. We'll do it at his place. He can't be bothered to come to the city. We'll do it at his place or not at all. Jesper, with his past mistakes, had no room to argue. With a heavy heart, he descends the last step into the cellar. But then, the boy in him takes over. Wow! Yep, not too shabby, you'd say. I would say. Jesper's big head spins on his neck. Oh, he exclaims. Gonsu! He taps on the little man standing on the bow of the first ship in the Safra fleet with his index finger. Tiny Gonsu, barely the size of a fingertip, and with his long drooping mustaches like Samura's dragon, holds a pennant with the Emperor's coat of arms. In the man's other hand is the compass the size of a pinhead, a gadget that he claims to have invented himself. I put this together a year ago. Remember the last time I only had the ships ready, still unpainted. Khan stands proudly in the middle of the room. Wait, what's that? Jesper points to the shiny showcase behind him. That's my crown jewel. That's my precious. Jesper, that's the Harnoncourt. The original? Jesper approaches the showcase reverentially. Of course not. Don't be naive. It costs more than you. Khan laughs with professional superiority. It's a copy, one of 2 existing. The fragile silhouette of the Harnoncourt spreads out behind the glass panel of the showcase. Jesper strokes the glass, which is taller than him, and looks for the switch to turn on the lights. Look, there, under the bench, a big switch. Jesper clicks on the lights, and it's not the showcase, but the brilliant light of the antique airship itself with the 10 floors that switches on. The model hangs in the middle of the showcase, suspended in the air by invisible wires, like a silver and varnished wooden swan. On the first-class deck, behind crystal glass walls, small chandeliers glitter through the 4-story hall. Tiny people are frozen, trying to come down on the spiral stairs. It seems so light, fragile. Silver arches stretch like sails on the ship's hull and converge at the bow as the nickel-plated coat of arms swan of the Cest Empress. It's amazing, isn't it, that they thought something like this could pass through the pale. Look, here are the blankets. Khan is so happy that he can finally show it to someone. Blankets! These little baskets here have outdoor blankets. Ridiculous stuff. Sitting right in the pail. With your girl. Honestly, I could stare at it all day. I understand how. It's not too shabby. Jesper circles around the display case and shares his discoveries with Khan, as if he hadn't been staring at it every day for the past 2 years, sitting in an armchair next to the model. Sit there. It has a particularly good view. He points to the chair. Jesper has no time to sit in the chair. Wait, the propellers, do they? Now go back to that switch and push it up one more notch, Khan says with a sly, cunning smile. Jesper puts his hands on his forehead and his mouth falls open. The Swan's large silver propellers, sharp as knives, 6 of them for maneuvering on the sides, under the ship, pointed toward the ground at different angles, and 2 even larger ones at the stern, start rotating slowly, and then with an increasingly loud hum. The individual blades disappear, leaving only glowing, hazy discs. The propellers are so large and dynamically directed that Jesper has the impression that the ship is about to take off from the display case and fly away, disappearing from the room and from history. The hull of the ship bears the beautiful inscription, Harnoncourt, in the Grad script. Jesper unscrews the cap of his water bottle, and Khan makes himself coffee. They sit at the edge of the display case, in armchairs. Looking at the ship, the interior designer now feels the same foolish hope that Khan can sometimes infect him with. Still wearing his morning robe and pajama pants, that lazy cat sips his hot coffee, and Jesper looks at him in surprise. It's 7 o'clock. Tell me you weren't asleep. A little depressing, I know. That's what it is. Jesper laughs a dark laugh and then stares at Harnoncourt for a long time. I wonder why he didn't call. Therese, right away. I've been fidgeting for 2 nights. It's getting on my nerves. I'm not fidgeting. I'm just like this, with a nocturnal lifestyle all the time. Kind of an artist type. Maybe he found out something from Hurd and started right away. So you don't think Hurd himself might have done something? Done something? Pfft, hardly. Fantasy. You can't even imagine how much those guys can lie. I did 10. I did 100,000. I did more than Erno Pasternak. They have everything in numbers and fame. But that drawing was 1-to-1. I know. Exactly. Something should come out of it. Something, yeah. Jesper gets up and takes his bag from the coat hanger. But I don't think Therese is fishing somewhere. As far as I know, we have, an agreement. That when it comes to the girls, we do it together. That's right, agrees Khan, but out of the corner of his eye, he still peers at Harnoncourt with a mysterious absent-mindedness, until a soft black parcel lands in his lap. See, one, female acquaintance brought it for me. She must have thought I'd gained weight, or something. Should be fine for you. Khan pulls out a brand-new Perseus black dress shirt from the package labeled PB. Thanks, man. He's sincerely grateful. You can throw that wag with frills away now. Therese's potato-colored Koiko hair is wet from the rain and appears almost black. Excuse me, do you happen to have change for 10 real? He crouches down behind the entire kiosk counter in his long coat. The teenage girl chews gum indifferently. No, we don't. Very well, then I'll have the cheapest thing you have. A box of matches, for example. And please give me coins in return. Sorry, sir, we don't sell matches. Nothing is more unpleasant than a whining teenage girl. The girl stretches the toothpaste blue bubble gum between her mouth and fingers. Damn it. How about an Astra? What? Astra. What is that? A lollipop. Give me that lollipop there, now. A raspberry-flavored lollipop with caramel swirls clicks against Machahek's crooked teeth. He piles coins clattering into the payphone. The cabin has a sweet smell of rain. It's nice to watch how the water droplets flow down the glass. Therese likes the cabin. The lollipop is good too. Good thing there were no matches. The phone pressed between his shoulder and ear. He turns the numbers. His head cleared up a lot. The caramel is sweet and the raspberries sour, just like raspberries are. Damn, Jesper is never home. On the table, under the phone, the notebook with the Collaboration Police emblem is opened for the phone numbers. Therese's wet fingers leave stains on it. K. Karproleva Khan. The wheel rattles again outside the glass. Dozens and dozens of people come out of the department store and go in. Freibank Sea Eagle glides over the bank's sign, steaming and golden from the rain. Hello, I'd like to speak to Inayat Khan.
Is this you, Therese?
Khan's mother's worried voice crackles in the receiver.
Yes, ma'am. Is Inayat home?
Listen, Therese, you still listen to me. Don't start tormenting yourself with that again. You know, I saw the girl's mother one day.
Yes, of course. Listen, ma'am.
We happened to talk a little bit.
Yeah, in one ear and out the other. Khan's mother's talk is a mood killer.
Ma'am, please tell Inayat that I'll call. It's urgent. Sorry.
Mom, who's there?
Khan's shout echoes from afar.
Is it Therese? No, it's Pernilla Lundqvist, one of your many admirers,
the old lady says sarcastically. Footsteps are heard running down the cellar stairs, and cars zoom past. A splash of water against the phone booth door.
Therese!
Hi, Khan. Listen, where's Jesper? We're in a hurry.
Here, Jesper's voice responds from afar.
Me, here, Jesper.
There's nothing more enjoyable than hearing the lively voices of your friends while hung over from Za-Um.
Listen, you need to get to Lovisa quickly. Nursing home. Skyming. Look somewhere. I don't know. In the phone book. Visiting hours end at 8 o'clock.
Okay, Skyming. What's there?
The Rik Trentmöller. And, you know, I think, Kexholm Circle.
Therese, Kexholm Circle is a horror story for women.
It'd be better if it were. Why do you think it isn't?
Jesper tries to squeeze himself behind the phone.
Khan, ask him why he thinks it isn't.
Why do you think it isn't?
Listen, we'll talk about it on site, okay?
Okay, we'll take a taxi. Jesper, do you have taxi money?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a taxi.
What follows is just the weight and mass of time and space between places. The taxi ride. Pedestrians in dark clothes, a gray sky, and puffs of smoke from the engine. Therese Machahek. Autumn moments like smooth traffic in a row.
Yes, Khan's mother saw the girl's mother in the doctor's waiting room. So what if they're her 4 daughters? Who is she, anyway? Lose all your children in one day. Can you imagine how that feels? But tell me, what has this woman done to find them? So what if she has found her peace? Khan's mother's voice crackled in the phone. If the girls' mothers can reconcile, can't you? We can't. You see, we're pneumotourists. We love the girls. Yes, I dare say it. We love them more. Even this moment, the evening city sliding past the taxi window, where the world is going wrong and time is disjointed, is a crime. It must be rectified. Solved. No peace. No truce with the Furies. And listen. Traffic glides by the side window, distant trumpet calls, long notes that shift out of place. Waiting. An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, evening, the next morning, the next week, winter, spring, a year, the next year, 10, 20 years. Time like crackling sounds from a cloudy sky. The summer rain wants to break loose.
Boys, a little pneumotor? Why are you standing there, whining? You're such a pneumotourist. Some are exploring the pale between the isolas. They're called entrepreneurs. And some are discovering new lands. They're explorers. But you, pneumotourists, when the sense of normality creeps up again, leave behind the burnt shells of your present and dwell again in the days of wonder. The air is heavy with the impending rain. Swallows swoop over the water, catching insects. Jesper watches approvingly. At first, only a few heavy drops fall, unnoticed. It is still too hot, the sun shining like a white blade between the clouds. And the Safra archaeologists are off to Anise Islands to search for traces of the Gonsu expedition. But Jesper knows what's coming. These sudden downpours always lurk in the cotless summer clouds. And Jesper also knows what time to turn on the radio in the morning. "Today's weather," the announcer says. It's all part of the plan. Khan shifts closer to Malin while telling a story. He can already feel the hem of her skirt tickling his shin. The others listen to Khan's story, but Jesper retrieves the beach umbrellas from the bushes. He opens the girl's umbrella, just as thunder rolls through the sunlit cloud cover. Ani lifts her head and laughs. The sun-drenched rain curtain rattles over the beach and the cliff. At Jesper's signal, 2 more umbrellas open. Khan opens his without interrupting his story, and Therese covers both Charlotte, who listens with her chin in her hand, and the showy little Madge. Madge has braided her grown-out boyish hair into small tufted ponytails. The maneuver is executed brilliantly. The knights just smirk at the girl's laughter. "So warm. Feel it." Ani sticks her hand out from under the umbrella into the rain. Her back arches in front of Jesper. The boy murmurs something in response, and gazes spellbound at the birthmark bird path on Ani's arched back. His hand wants to reach out and count the stars. The dusty smell of rain permeates deep into his nostrils. How long is the memory's exposure time? "Oh!" Ani extends her neck and shakes her head in the rain. "You're so different when you're not at school." "Aha!" nods Malin in agreement. "Prepared." "Kind of like older, wouldn't you say?" Therese raises an eyebrow inquiringly at Charlotte. "Hey, I saw you once in line for lunch," the girl chuckles and chews on a straw in a glass of sparkling apple cider. "I really couldn't say." "But back then Therese was still a boy," Jesper teases. "Now, though, a man." Malin is getting closer. Under the 3rd umbrella, there is just enough room for the girl to curl up. The golden wreath of hair falls to Khan's knees, and rain patters on the beach umbrella. The girl tucks her head down and looks up at Khan, long and foreign, with shimmering dark green eyes. Khan swallows. Malin is the only girl who doesn't want cider. "How does the story end?" Her voice comes from some unfamiliar place. "Why didn't they come back?" "Well, that's the question," Khan coughs. "Why didn't they come back then?" Malin suddenly bursts into giggles, wicked dimples flashing in her delight. "They didn't want to give their immortal peaches to the stupid emperor." "Fool," Khan blurts out accidentally. "There's no such thing as immortal peaches." Charlotte sits up. "But maybe there is. How do you know? You think it was how it was, that Gonsu and those 1,000 sailors didn't dare come back. The emperor will kill them, right? But if I were Gonsu..." Charlotte looks over little Madge and draws dragon whiskers with her fingers. "And I found the immortal peaches. I wouldn't tell anyone. I would share them secretly, only with my best friends, and then we would travel the world together for 1,000 years, and see what wonders people come up with." "Would you give me immortal peaches too, Lot?" Little Madge looks up at her oldest sister. "Of course. When you grow up, I'll give you some." "Why do I have to grow up?" "So you can be a young lady forever, and not a little beetle," Charlotte teases. "Not," Therese shakes her head and watches as terrible Charlotte's hair brushes her shoulder like a paintbrush, chin proudly raised. Not as pretty. Con and Jesper, startled by Therese's sudden change of strategy, don't know what to say. Charlotte exhales, and her chest slowly deflates. Capillary burst on her cheeks. Therese stares at her. But me? Could I also get your immortal peaches? We'll see. The girl grins and gathers herself. But first, you should bring me something. Just tell me what. Con sees Malin secretly exchanging glances with the girls out of the corner of his eye. Something is happening. Ani pulls up her tennis skirt over her tanned legs. Next time, it's our turn, isn't it? And our place. Didn't think we'd have our own secret spot. Her eyes flash at Jesper. What are you guys doing on Saturday? The boys aren't doing anything on Saturday. Absolutely nothing. Let me check my calendar. Nothing. We're going to the countryside for a week. Gardening. Ani's back arches. She rises on tiptoes and slips the waist of her skirt over her rear. But we could meet up on the beach on Saturday evening? Sure thing, the boys mutter in unison. Charlotte's purse jingles. The girls' gazes reflect back and forth between the boys like trigonometry. The rain stops, but a few drops still sparkle. The bright sun emerges from behind a cloud, and the goddess from 9th grade stretches in its rays, placing her hands over Madge's ears and squinting at the boys. This is our half. Bring cherry speed. What? Jesper is dumbfounded, mouth agape. Cherry speed, Ani enunciates. Her red tongue touches the roof of her mouth at the D sound. It's like amphetamine, Charlotte speaks matter-of-factly. Her breasts rise and fall as she breathes while speaking. Just, special. It's really good, and we want to do it with you guys. Silence. Rain-soaked rose hips steam in the sun. Madge is staying home, right? Therese is still thinking of those funny braids sticking up from her head. Con and Jesper see him smoking his Astra next to Charlotte. Of course, silly. Davai, then, he shouts. Let's get it done. Malin smiles, infinite joy reflected in her eyes, facing Con. As befits a teacher's daughter, she starts giving instructions. Ziggy's number is in the wallet. Call him then, okay? He'll have it. Chapter 8. Linoleum Salesman. The linoleum salesman travels from town to town. In Norrköping, he sold linoleum along the banks of a large frozen river. Small wooden churches and narrow streets. The linoleum salesman admired the wooden architecture and the frozen silence of the north. By 9 o'clock at night, the streets were empty, and the wind blew through the city. The wind blew, coat-tails flapping, and thick snow fell on the roofs of the houses. Snow fell in the linoleum salesman's heart. Rows of orange streetlights. What images flickered in his mind that evening? In his rented room, under a blanket. What stories? What patience? In the neighbor's garden, the linoleum salesman admired two brothers, faces like gears, mouths pursed, and cheeks red from the cold. In Arda, at the beginning of the mountains, where fjords cut into valleys between the peaks. Houses the color of red clay at the foot of a snowy giant. At night, when the window panes blinked in the dark like small eyes and the mountain's blackened teeth were bared to the sky, but their smiles were nothing compared to the linoleum salesman's smile. He practiced, lowering his chin like a caterpillar, raising his upper lip. The man in the hotel room mirror became sly. What if he were to enter like this, into a low-ceiling, concrete-walled basement? What would it be like to see something like that? Look now, beauty. Look at me now. Then, when the linoleum factory closed down, times became hard. But the linoleum salesman got back on his feet. He made new contacts and met importers. A new linoleum factory opened, and wherever he went, whatever he looked at, he always wanted to see more. He sold linoleum, but thought of himself as a day photographer. For him, the world has preserved its hidden landscapes and beauty furnaces that no other person can see. Like a child with a kaleidoscope, he dismantled the shapes. In Grod, above winter's orbit, the linoleum salesman was selling linoleum. The magnet train was raging on the northern plateau. Outside the windows it was dark, and the aurora was above the plain. In the toilet of the restaurant car, the dark mountain tunnel swallowed the train, and then, when the linoleum salesman came out, his hands were full of broken glass. Where did the charming flower mandala go? It beckons, hidden. It is interesting, but then disappoints with its ugly structure, a show-off. The linoleum salesman lost his patience. His greedy nerves were raging. Jelinka. In Polarisol, a man rubbed snow on his face, but the snow only melted from his hot nerves. Now he rests, trying to take care of himself. He works, selling linoleum to construction stores, interior design offices, and retailers. Brown linoleum, linoleum with flowers. He comes down from the north to Vasa. In Kexholm, selling linoleum in the elite garden suburb of Lovisa, he sees something new, something he thought he would never see. He sees other linoleum salesmen. Only they're not really linoleum salesmen. In the gay park on a mattress, he talks to the ticket inspector about Vasa, the feeling of safety, schools, and liberal education. The aspen grove rustles, and the rest too. They have new ideas and knowledge. They tell each other their stories. The garden equipment renter, the foot doctor. Briefing. Therese looks at the silver watch that his colleagues from the missing persons department gave him for his 10th anniversary. 5 minutes. He marches through the retirement home park with Con and Jesper, the folds of his coat fluttering. Okay, briefing. Con falls behind the others. I'm in pain. I need to rest. Jesper hurries. Listen, you have a serious heart problem. I think we all agree. You should see a doctor. I agree, Therese agrees. The white window frames of the house glow in the dim light behind the fence. The leaves rustle under Jesper's suede shoes. He looks at the mud splatters on the shoe tip and then shrugs. The sweet smell of decay. He is nervous about waiting. Your local authority could be more accommodating, Agent Matahek continues. The collaboration initiative and the international sentiment were lacking. Con tries to keep up. Did you get to interrogate? I did. Yesterday? No, this morning. They dragged it out. Nothing I could do. I was on the phone all day yesterday. I don't know, like an acrobat. 100 calls. Sorry. Therese is a brilliant liar. Jesper doesn't doubt for a second. Whatever. Hey, what did Hurt say? He didn't see them. Jesper notices Con's sigh of relief and furrows his eyebrows suspiciously. He is honestly a little disappointed. All this preparation for nothing. Ah, let the funeral party begin. Wait, that's not all. Therese raises a finger. He wears black leather gloves and smiles at his gesture. Herd was so kind, he gave me a name. Derek Trentmöller. That's where I heard it from. Con suddenly stops and looks angrily at Therese. He just gave you that name and told you everything honestly? He talked? Jesper doesn't understand why Con doubts his friend's interrogation skills. Well, you were also hammering him with questions, right? In Grad style. He looks approvingly at Therese and walks on. So, Derek, who? Trentmöller? Exactly. I checked. It all fits. They share a cell 18 years ago. The last year of Derek's sentence.
he was released early. There's one more twist to this. Remind me later. Anyway, together they got each other riled up with their stories, and then, one day, Herd has a really juicy one. Derek feels like he owes him. Anyway, he starts babbling. He recognizes a guy. Wait. From the Kexholm Circle. Come on, bullshit. Khan is unimpressed. Therese is not bothered. This guy is from that circle. Let's assume for a moment that there is some kind of circle, right? And he's like a leader, seriously a bad person, and dangerous. A few years after the girls disappear, the leader comes to Derek and starts talking about how he and his friends abducted the girls. They're lovers, by the way, the leader and Derek. Nice. And Derek can't tell anyone anything, otherwise they'll kill him. So now Derek tells Herd, and you can't imagine the things in the format of Herd's and Derek's conversation are interesting. I also looked up Derek a bit, as much as I could find in the Kronstadt papers. A pedophile, molested his sister's children, mainly the family. Nothing serious. A woman eventually turned him in. Derek is a coward. Tells the pastor how much he regrets it and how it's something that pushes him. Therese skeptically shakes his hands as he says this and then continues. And all of the rest of the diabolical stuff that comes with it. Under the trees is the back of the nursing home. The veranda has white-painted wooden edges. The stone stairs lead to the back door. Time-appropriate red walls and fragile wooden architecture. Just the kind of house from Vasa's past that would remind its inhabitants of their youth. Chestnuts drop their last leaves on the roof of Skymning. Now, of course, Derek is 70 years old. Or 75, you do the math. And do you know why he was let go earlier? Khan and Jesper don't know why Derek Trentmöller, the homosexual lover of the leader of the Krexholm pedophile ring, was released from prison earlier. He became senile. What? So in his 60s or something? Jesper understands the complications that could arise. Something like that, yes. Totally senile? I don't know. It wasn't written in there how senile. Anyway, the situation deteriorated quickly. We'll see. Khan shuffles up the stairs of the retirement home after the others. The three of them stand in front of the arched wooden door. Therese rings the bell. Drawing, Khan pants, hands on his knees. Where did Herd get the drawing? It's like a relic there. It goes from hand to hand. If we can find the man who had it originally, we'll have our funeral party. That I promise you. We can finally start living. Therese rings the bell again, this time a little angrily. Only Herd finally put up. The leader of Kexholm. At Khan's glance, Therese corrects himself. The leader of the supposed Kexholm group gave it to Derek, and Derek showed it to Herd. It seems to me that Herd was just a little bit curious. You know, to see what happens. Therese smiles evilly. Vasa slumbers in the blissful peace of the 50s. Winter is ending. Icicles drip from the eaves onto the pavement, leaving holes in the ice. The days are getting longer, and somewhere far away, in the yard of a central school, Sven von Fersen is picking on an overweight immigrant. What did he think, that Malin would enjoy hearing such hurtful talk? Huh? Was it really so? Therese stands at the far end of the yard and doesn't dare to intervene. He hopes Jesper will start to feel too much pain from watching. Reflection. The linoleum salesman walks along the suburban sidewalks, his boots stained with salt from melting snow. He hasn't slept all night. The bright light and sun reflections on the ice are hurting his eyes. His hands shake from the coffee. His head is throbbing. A tense, red, pulsating relay of nerves. Thousands of images from their nighttime conversation swirl in the linoleum salesman's mind. He puts his hand in his pocket, where there's a hole cut with scissors at the bottom. He takes the horse-drawn tram in circles and gets off at the Falu stop every time, slips under the bridge, looks at the willow thicket,
and gets back on the tram from the other side of the road. The linoleum salesman's head rests against the window. Sometimes he falls asleep, but even then his imagination keeps going, taking increasingly strange poses, spreading his legs before him. Even when he sleeps, he wants. But the linoleum salesman trains his nerves. The tram clock strikes 2 outside the window, and the school day is over. The linoleum salesman's jaws tremble. He is awake. Children pour out of the tram cabin. In the garage at home, there are rolls of linoleum lined up. He lives here now, in Vasa, Kexholm. He walks the streets of the Lovisa suburb. The linoleum salesman hangs onto the handrail. He wants to squirm. An old lady looks at him strangely. It's the same old lady. She was on the tram the day before yesterday, and yesterday. He can't take it anymore. He has to choose. Follow station comes, and the linoleum salesman gets off. He slips under the bridge and looks at his willow thicket of longings. He can't bear it anymore. Small ice mounds drip from the willow branches, and the linoleum salesman's breath warms them up. Drip, drip. The sun sparkles on a water drop, and the visions disappear on the other side of the willow thicket. 4 in a row. The smallest one talks incessantly. Blah, blah, blah. This is the most beautiful moment in the linoleum salesman's life. He wants them. After that, it's over. He kills himself and frees the world from the linoleum salesman. But first, them. The smell of heart medication makes one nauseous. Jesper wipes his neck and nervously adjusts the tie in his sweater collar. It seems like all those joint ointments have somehow made it onto his skin. He doesn't know why anyone would hold onto life so desperately. White lace curtains are tied on either end of the windows, and something crawls on the walls of Derek Trentmüller's room, turned into a makeshift ward. Tree branch shadows on the floral wallpaper. Occasionally, when a motorized carriage passes by with a hiss, the shadows come to life from the headlights and slide in the dim light. The table lamp is yellow. Layers of flowers and the tree branches slide over each other. Death, the word that rarely appears in the boys' conversations, as if it doesn't exist. Everything just disappears and goes away. When the time comes, Jesper steps out into the December air. The light of the cube house stays behind him, and ski trails lead to the outskirts of town. Barren fields spread under the snow, and Jesper crosses over them, to where the wall of trees darkens. Zigzag drum. The branches of spruces brush his white coat. Dark forest, eyes green with darkness. In the cold air, girls' voices ring out like jingle bells. They are waiting, under eternal ice, in a pristine environment untouched for millions of years, deep in the lungs of Grod, where no human is allowed to go. Jesper doesn't tell anyone about it. Derek's room, or rather, the ward, is cluttered with tubes. Family pictures stand in frames on a small bookshelf. Glowing glass. Jesper doesn't dare look at those photos. Children, nieces? Will these caretakers clean here someday too? Above the bed stands the silver icon of Dolores Day, and below it sits Derek Trentmüller, hands folded on his lap, a plaid bedspread on his shoulders. A tiny silver cross shines around his neck. The frame of the drip bag stands tall at the head of the bed.
Boys, my memory is fading. Tomorrow I wouldn't recognize you. The best thing that ever happened to me. It's like a blessing for someone like me. Some mornings I wake up and don't even remember my own name. I don't remember who I am, let alone those things.
Therese stands with his hands behind the curtains examining the window frames. "You seem pretty good now." He turns around. "Who did you get the drawing from? Of Ani Elin Lund's back? Who?"
"Oh, dear."
Mr. Trentmüller's liver-spotted face trembles, and he looks tired.
"I don't remember such things anymore. The things I want to remember, I don't. I don't remember, my son. So then, those things—"
"Don't fool around with me, Dirk." Therese squats in front of the old man and puts his hand on his knees. Khan watches with fear as Agent Mechahek pierces Therese's clouded eyes. "Now focus. You talk to your cellmate, Vidkun Herd. You don't want to say you don't remember Vidkun Herd? Who could forget? You talked." Therese puts his hand under the old man's chin and turns his face towards him again. "Do you hear me? I know you told Vidkun Herd in prison that you know someone who kidnapped 4 Lund girls from Charlottesville Beach 20 years ago. And you drew a sketch of one of the girls' birthmarks as proof. Dirk, the sketch matches." Tears flow down Mr. Trentmüller's flabby cheeks. "Dirk, hey! The sketch matches."
"I did. I went to the gay park. I don't remember. I don't want to."
Dirk whines his old man's whine, but Therese gets angrier and angrier. His upper lip is starting to curl around his tobacco-stained teeth. Dirk pulls back as if he's seen a ghost, but Therese's hand is on the emergency button. "If you're not cooperative because of your memory sickness, then know this. We have a machine nowadays. It's like an ice cream scoop, Dirk. I'll scoop out whatever I need from your brain, and then—" "Therese!" Khan has got up from his chair and is holding his shoulder. "Then comes the blessing." "Therese, don't start with that." Jesper doesn't understand. He watches in confusion as the agent hovers over Dirk, his hand on the alarm button. Khan angrily pulls him by the shoulder. "You know how this will ruin you, Therese. You know. We need you in the Kopo. You must not get fired. I have ideas, too. We don't need—" Therese calms down. "Okay. Jesper, get the door." Jesper peers out into the empty corridor. The retirement home is quiet in the evening, as if abandoned. He pulls the door shut. Heart pounding in his chest, the man rests his back against the doorknob and nervously ruffles his blond hair. The air in the room is thick, and Jesper can see the old man shivering on the bed. He hides his face from Therese with his hands. "Linoleum salesman," says the collaboration police agent in a single word. The man's sad, wrinkled eyes grow wide. His eyebrows rise. "Who?" "The linoleum salesman. Your boyfriend. He made the drawing. He told you about the girls. Who is he? Who, Dirk?" He was just... Dirk doesn't cry anymore. The tears dry on his cheeks. The old man slumps under the sun, as if struck by lightning.
"Just a linoleum salesman. They all were. That's what they called themselves. Professions."
A weary sigh rolls from his mouth.
"Oh, Lord, help me."
It's quiet in the room. A lone motorbike whizzes by outside, and the shadows of trees glide across Jesper, opposite the door. Khan quietly pushes Therese aside.
"Very good, Dirk. See how good it is now?"
He looks at the old man under the blanket with his big almond eyes.
"You're going to help us find those girls, aren't you?"
2 places, Therese whispers to Khan.
2 places, Dirk. Tell us 2 places this man went, where he lived, and in what district. Do you know that?" "In Kexholm. They were all in Kexholm." "Very good. Excellent. And now another one. Think, Dirk. Think where else the linoleum salesman was inscribed. Help us find the girls. Where did he go?"
"He was looking at them."
On the beach. At the hotel.
Hofsunglar? Therese paces nervously under the window.
I don't remember. Please.
Got it. Therese nods and takes 2 steps towards the door. Hofsunglar, let's go. "18 years ago, Vidkun Hurd sits in the corner of a cubicle at a homemade desk, a single strand of old-fashioned combed-back hair clinging to his forehead. Now you could still say, classic. Vidkun is young, relatively. The forehead is not yet covered with curls. The cheeks are just beginning to sink into the Nordic bulldog look. There are heaps of manuscripts on the desk. Philosophy of the future, historicist, eugenicist universal theory. It explains all things in the world. It is his legacy to mankind. Vidkun Hurd is written on the cardboard cover in bold letters. 2 reform beds line the wall, and daylight seeps in through a small window in the ceiling. Dietrich Trentmüller lies on the bed, old, and somehow distracted. He takes the silver cross from around his neck and looks at it for a moment, and then starts to laugh.
Oh, you're going to love it. I think it even has a certain superhumanity about it. Adventure and science at times. And all that, no doubt, beyond good and evil.
What spiritual honeymoon. Dietrich talks and Vidkun takes notes, nods knowingly, asks to pause for a moment, then replaces the inkwell. The window's beam of light creeps across the floor and spreads on the steel door. It's getting dark, and Vidkun lights the table lamp. He lifts a sheet of paper into the air and blows on it. Good times, good times. Dietrich stretches in the middle of the room and leads closer to Vidkun.
And you know what he said then? Linoleum salesman. I'll never forget it. He did a brilliant surgery on them. He joined them together. The smallest one died. The others survived. You understand, like that.
Linoleum salesman. Linoleum salesman. The linoleum salesman reaches out his hand for toilet paper. The salty sea air seeps into the room from the balcony of Hofsunglar, and there is a telescope on the reed mat. A special camera is connected to the telescope. Afterwards, he wanders around outside. He reads the timetable in the waiting pavilion, but the last tram has already gone towards the city. Girls on board. The summer evening is warm and makes the man's heart tender. He takes off his sandals. He walks barefoot on the warm asphalt. The asphalt is light and crumbly. The tram rails are cool. Charlottesville in the evening. He loves it. He loves the girls. He loves the beach where nothing means anything anymore. He is in love. It will never happen to me, he thought as the aurora borealis curved over the polar ice cap. Couples under the cover of greenhouses. Snow was falling behind the glass. It never happens to the linoleum salesman. But he loves the beach and the girls. One in particular, especially that one, and others too. Sand under bare feet, between his toes, warm in the daytime, and then damp. He walks along the water's edge. Music can be heard from the gardens, and the lights from the houses shine far away among the pine trees, away under the rocky cliff where no one can see. The rocks are slippery from the water, cold under his bare feet. Where did his shoes go? He doesn't remember. He walks along the stones, under the rocky cliff, waves splashing onto his trousers. Gentle darkness, he sinks to his knees and laughs. The pine trees rustle. Swim. He goes into the water between the rocks, so no one sees how happy he is. The trousers get wet, and he slips and hits his knee. So what? The water is dark and warm, and the stars are in the sky.
Du Telefunken, Jesper snaps his fingers. I know people there. It's close. You can make as many calls as you want from there, Therese. Work your magic. His hand is raised, and the three of them try to hail a taxi on the only main road in the Lovisa suburb. Cars whiz past. On the other side of the road rises a wall of trees, and traffic is sparse in the evening. It's 9:30. We'll make it. Khan follows behind. I don't know. What's the point of rushing? Let's talk. Nothing to talk about. We'll make some calls. We're flying tonight. Besides Jesper, Therese is also eager. His hand is raised, even for those taxis whose yellow lights are not on. What are we waiting for? Aren't you tired of waiting? Exactly, and I don't care. Jesper hops on one foot. A passing carriage splashes his clothes dirty. If you think I desperately want to know what kind of awful, ruinous, very emotional machine you, Therese, use, then I'm not interested. You do your job, and you don't have time. 3 days are the time in which the chances of finding someone, especially a child, alive decrease by half every day. 150, 25%, Khan. What would you do? That doesn't matter. Damn it! The rain above slowly turns into late autumn sleet. A splash from under the wheel sweeps over Khan. You and your taxis. The stop is right ahead. Jesper, you don't understand. You don't understand how it affects us. Fucking mescaline. Lysergic. Here it is. Stop. Jesper runs after the taxi stopping by the roadside and shouts back. So you would use good cop tactics, right? Seriously, enough. Therese grumbles in the taxi by the window. Khan slides in sideways into the passenger compartment and pants. You see, Jesper, you don't understand that this thing is illegal. In all the countries that have signed the declaration, which, incidentally, are precisely the countries where the collaboration police have, well, authority. Therese finishes Khan's sentence from the bottom and tells the driver, Telefunken. For a moment, the car is quiet. The engine starts. Sleet sizzles under the wheels. Jesper searches for an argument, but Therese beats him to it. Yes, I used the machine on Hurd. My decision. He would never have told us anything. He would have sat there. He would have smirked. He would have talked to me for 2 hours about crossbreeding gypsies and blacks. That's it. But Therese, Khan's voice takes on a whiny tone, they will fire you. It's under control. And you know what? I don't want to talk about it anymore. The next day, the linoleum salesman's long gaze glistens in the warm summer rain. The image shakes as he adjusts the tripod, then becomes still, sharp, clear. The sound of rain rustles in the linoleum salesman's ears. The clouds brighten in the sun, and rain falls onto the hotel balcony. The wet edge of the beach extends over half of the reed covering, and the rain rustles down on the beach. But in his mind, he hears the joyful drumming of raindrops on the parasol. A small, red-flowered parasol in the telescope's eye. It is almost a kilometer away, on a cliff, but the linoleum salesman stretches his hand out into the rain and touches it. Get out of the way, fat boy, he says. The linoleum salesman bought a women's magazine from the city. On the cover was the fashionably dressed Anne Margaret Lund, a woman in politics, and there were pictures inside. Anne Margaret in her beautiful apartment. And there she was, with her 4 daughters, on a coffee-colored couch. Under the picture were the names and ages in a row. Ani Aylin. What stories he came up with that day when he first saw them. Horrible things. How he takes them on. The linoleum salesman is a doctor. He is a doctor. Dr. Linoleum Salesman. And he sets them in motion like this, walking towards him. And he still couldn't get enough of it. How his nerves hummed. Hungry. They wanted to eat them alive, those nerves. And how it all receded.
When he came here, what a place! They chatted on 2 tram seats facing each other. He was behind them, and the linoleum salesman smelled the scent of their white hair. The tram rolled down the hill, and the horses trotted. The beach came to him, not the other way around, and the 4 of them led him there. Dust rose from the asphalt, reeds swayed, and the sun shone pale in the blue sky. It was not like those other beaches, in Arda and nearby Vasa, Östermalm, where the linoleum salesman sweated. He wriggled among disgusting, flabby bodies and chased after small, wrinkled puppies with his eyes. This is not the Jalinka swimming pool, where the linoleum salesman's eyes were red from chlorine, and he had to wait 2 hours before he could get out of the pool. The wind ruffled his hair, and the vastness. The world could fit inside it. The wind blew. He took the highest hotel room so that the wind could blow in and cool down the linoleum salesman. He looked at them tenderly, not daring to go down to the beach, near them. He would turn to ashes if he even touched them. He took pictures. The photons traveled, and the same light that sunburned the girl's back bounced off her tiny birthmarks and etched onto the pitch-black negative. White dots like stars in the night sky. The shutter speed of memory. He made a linen cord and a noose and masturbated. For the last time. His breath fluttered against the sheet, and with the semen, the linoleum salesman came out of him and vanished. The memory of the linoleum salesman and everything the linoleum salesman saw is fading day by day. Drops drum against the umbrella, and Ani reaches out her little hand into the piano tinkling of the rain. Today, when he woke up, he no longer remembered the linoleum salesman. At the photo store, when they took the family picture, a little morsel, the linoleum salesman, came to mind, and later, only more rarely, the linoleum salesman comes to his mind. Ani shakes her white head in the rain, pigtails on her back, and only he looks tenderly through the telescope. Thousands of kilometers and 2 months more than 20 years away, on the other side of winter's orbit, stands the meteorological research vessel Rodionov, trapped in ice. It is 12:30 on a polar night. In front of the crew, the spotlight beams spread out over the North Channel, a cold vision. Men in fur coats crowd the deck, their silver-gray collars lifted up to their fur hats. The crew is panicking. Where the darkness seems to thicken slightly, but the distance moves on endlessly, without the slightest sense of horizon. That is where the Pale begins. The crew feels and fears, although no one can see beyond 100 meters into the night. The research vessel's antenna unit broadcasts a desperate distress signal along with scientific readings. This radio transmission reaches the relay station in Kotla Oblast, distorted grotesquely, like in a curved mirror. Sector, orbit, sector. Sector, orbit, sector. There are crackling sounds as the ice edges curves into the sky under the Pale, wiping gusts like music played backwards and 10 times slower. The Pale approaches, an avalanche of memories of the world, and buries matter with reckless speed. The expanse of the starry sky disappears 1 star at a time under its rolling brush. In orbit, the communication satellite Icon sees how the Pale sweeps over the entire Kotla North Channel with a single wave. It also engulfs Samarskilt, the stony desert spread in southern Samara, and half of Supramundus on Mundi. The Pale cycles and curves, gathers in rebellion against the matter. The black holes swallow the eyes of the cycles. Azimuth calibrates at the stratospheric edge. The immediate zones of entropinetic catastrophe now include Lemminkäinen
Nad Umai ecoregion in the northeast Samara taiga, Grad Yekokata, and the network of irrigated plateaus in the Severnaya Zemlya, the remote, life-abandoned corners of matter. It is September 29th, the early 70s. 2 nights ago was the class reunion. Now it's the end of the world. And Therese Manchehek, at the Telefunken Panoramic Restaurant, put the phone down on the table 2 hours ago and instructed the secretary of Hafsanglar to read out the whole guest list for June and July of the 52nd year. The table is loaded with food. The delicious crab claws are lying half on the phone. Khan loves delicious crab, and Jesper explains how to suck the meat and juice out of the tube. "Suck, suck," says Jesper, pointing to the waiter to take away the plates. Tonight, Jesper is Jesper's way, Jesper's treat, and Jesper loves good food. He doesn't settle for rice and macaroni. Khan sucks. "Well, I don't know. It's certainly better, but if you put dumplings in rice and macaroni..." Jesper sips ice water. "Therese, listen, I can take Kex home myself. I designed a pediatrician's residence there, and know one developer. I think I should have access to what he was, the population register," says Therese. His shoulder throbs with pain, but the Yugograd red wine here is so good that he wants to take a sip. And then he has to put the phone back on his shoulder. The secretary ended the call once already. Then Therese called the administration and asked to pass on. "The lives of 4 little girls will be on your conscience." That worked. Beside the wine glass, Khan holds a notebook open, and over 2,000 names are written on the page. "Halfway there, ma'am. Just 2,000 more." His head throbs with Lars and Berg, and Uke flashes in his eyes like train lights. "Okay then." Jesper unfolds the napkin and wipes his mouth. "It's 11:30. An hour left to go. Then it closes. I can bargain for 2.5. So let's start. I'll take the population register." The waiter puts another phone on the table. The rest of the guests watch the trio's meal with restrained interest. A thin Quaco has been reading names monotonously for 2 hours and writing them down in a notebook. A yellow-brown overweight man in a Perseus black double-collared shirt lifts his glasses, breaks a crab claw, and then waves to the aunt at the opposite table. Therese's notebook is messed up by that. "Khan, you don't exactly have the hardest of tasks. Just deal with it." "Therese, listen, for God's sake, let's take this notepad." "No, it has to be in the notebook." "What's with the notebook?" "Dirk Tretmöller," says Therese in an accustomed mechanical voice, and then he looks at Khan with wide-open eyes. "Dirk Tretmöller. Hello? Are you sure? Did he mark anything there?" "Vacation." "What else?" "Linoleum salesman," says the secretary with a tired voice at the other end of the line. "Dirk fucking Trentmöller, June 1724, linoleum salesman." Jesper slams his fist against the table he had designed 5 years ago. Khan puts the crab claw on the plate. "Now comes Za Derek Trentmöller dreams of a linoleum salesman. All the things that the linoleum salesman sees rotate before his eyes like a uniform mass of flesh and darkness. Occasionally he wakes up. He cannot sleep. Then a whirl of flesh and darkness returns and Dirk falls asleep. In his dream, they are lovers with the linoleum salesman. He is someone else. Through a rising, shapeless memory, a clicking is heard. The wooden window creaks. The glasses rattle in their frames. Then a thud, and Dirk wakes up. Death. This must be death. Dark brown flowers on flowery wallpaper. Shadows of branches sway and curtains flutter in the wind. Yes, this is exactly as Dirk always imagined it. In front of the open window, a tall, thin figure in a fish-tailed coat appears. There are more of them. Fat Death
falls from the windowsill with a thud and whispers,
"Okay, inside. Keep watch."
Tall Death comes to the edge of the bed and disconnects the alarm button. Fat Death turns on the table lamp and steps over Derek, placing a hand gently on his hair. Those big, dark, brown eyes look familiar.
"Derek, don't struggle. We need something from you now. We need you to remember, and that's why we're giving you a little injection. It's not painful. It's like a dream."
Derek hears the click of a suitcase, and Tall Death presses his gloved hand to his mouth. Strange smells. Everything fades. Kind, dark brown eyes look at him.
"But what if he doesn't remember? How does it work then?"
"We'll see." Derek Trentmurler opens up in front of Therese. Now it is Therese who is by the water's edge. The tiger wades through the water. He is always there, lurking. And wherever Derek ends, the tiger prowls around, sniffs, and finds the linoleum salesman. In Norrköping, in the Arda Fjord town, in the magnet train, in the Jelinka polar settlement, he follows, his eyes phosphorescently glowing in those dark corners where the linoleum salesman goes. He is in a low-ceiling, concrete-walled basement when the linoleum salesman makes faces at his niece. When he finally arrives in Vasa, the tiger waits at the station, sitting at the end of the platform and licking its paws, where the sight of the lanterns does not reach. He rustles in the park's alder grove, and the linoleum salesman is startled. Walking on Lovisa streets on a spring morning, with a hole cut in his pocket with scissors, one can see into the tiger's heart for a moment. The schoolyard is visible, and a fight between small boys. When the linoleum salesman comes to Charlottesville, Cerise treads the wind there. He is a bird of prey, keeping watch. He has eagle eyes. He sees everything. Until one evening, he sees the linoleum salesman disappear on the top floor of the Havsunglar Hotel. Half of the people have gone. Day by day, it is forgotten that the linoleum salesman ever existed, until finally, there is only senile, old Derek Trentmurler.
"Linoleum, linoleum, linoleum," he hums. "Is there such a word as linoleum at all?"
A strange, strange feeling of loss. But it is not linoleum that he longs for. The linoleum salesman mourns himself, sometimes remembers himself, and imagines a life where he never disappeared. He spews out disgusting talk and reads Vidkun Herd's memoirs, fantasies on his own. Derek Trentmurler longs for something completely different. It is August 29th, 20 years ago, and he feels bad. Something is wrong. He couldn't sleep all night. The morning newspaper lies on the bathroom floor. The education minister's 4 daughters are missing. Derek Trentmurler cannot breathe. The world is going wrong, and time is disjointed. In the light of a red light bulb, a hobby photographer reveals pictures taken on the hotel balcony. His hands tremble. He is sure they were there. Sure. But the photos on the clothesline have clothespins lined up, and they all have horror vaki, nothingness. The contours of a rocky cliff appear on the glossy paper floating in the developing tray. A pale summer sky. But not them. Khan and Jesper carry the barely conscious Therese into a taxi. His shoes drag along the ground, and the man trembles. Jesper's voice comes from the convex mirror. Jesper is still a cool guy.
"Therese, stay awake. What do we do with you?"
He didn't do it. He didn't do it.
"Okay, but what do we do with you now? Take you to the hospital? Therese!"
Therese's voice is barely audible.
What do we do now?
"I don't know. You tell me. Do we take you to the hospital or let you sleep it off?"
Therese tries to get his bearings.
No, you don't understand. Dead end. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do next.
Khan holds Therese's head down as they put him in the taxi.
Wait now, Tiger. You'll sleep it off first. Then it's my turn. I have a plan.
Therese faints. Everything disappears. Chapter 9. Sacred and Terrible Smell. What was that sacred and terrible, elusive smell in the air this time? My name is Ambrosius Saint Miro. The locals call me Ambrosius Paiha Mira, and in Grad they call me Svata Mira. Diduska? They ask, their eyes wide with affection. But I answer them, no, I am not your Diduska. I am Ambrosius Saint Mira from Mesk, Ambrosio Haragimira. I am Ambrosia, the holy world. You chose me, authorized me with your life, your thoughts, your mind cabinet. At night, when you went to sleep, and tomorrow morning, from the window of public transport. But what I do is no longer a conversation. There are no arguments here, no sides to choose. The time for doubt is over. I come once in every era. It is a great fortune to live when I am in the world. I am innocent, and now you are too. If you decided, then it was either right or wrong. If I decide, my decision is what is. When God still seemed like an interesting idea to you, I was pious Pericarnassus. I was Ernest Pasternak. You wanted to be betrayed and slaughtered. I made you sing Pasternakian songs. That's how fierce I am, and my unnecessary war. You wanted to hate me then. I was Franco-Negro. You were nationalists. You wanted international black-colored banknotes and militarism. Wanted to work in the factory, serve God. And medieval industrial architecture wanted to live under a concrete arch. I was a woman, Dolores Day, when it seemed to you. I want a mother, a perfect mother. I had beautiful breasts. I was young, and so were you. You wanted to fall in love, and I let you. Humanism and Renaissance care for each other. I sent you to school and taught you languages. You got tired of me, and I died. You wanted a world where I didn't exist. Then I was your innocent Sola, an indifferent girl, sitting with folded hands and watching you make coups. Oh, do it yourself. Make mistakes. Don't learn anything, I thought. I was a citizen. I went from country to country, from one incel to another, and introduced you to my thoughts. Everywhere I went, I infected you with my cynicism and nihilism. On the radio, I talked about how everything is wrong, how everything is equal, and pohui. Who cares? Presidents, kings, princes, and sheiks, everyone was afraid of me. No one wanted to let me into their suzerainty. They didn't want me in their publishing houses, on the big screen, or on their talk shows. But then, when I signed books in the bookstore, they saw. You broke down. And when I spoke on the radio, ratings went up. I was brilliantly popular. Thank you. You made me happy. They let me into their talk shows, and there I showed you what human thoughts are capable of. You may be right, too. And how witty you are. You kept listening and laughing. You called your whole family to gather around the radio, and together you listened, realizing how special you actually are. I could have a supermodel girlfriend, too, I said. But I have chosen solitude. That would be bourgeois. Dear supermodel, of course, I could spend the night with you. We would have fun. You would be as high as a kite on cocaine, and I would stick a pipette full of milk up your ass and watch it squirt out. Of course, I have thought about it. But that wouldn't be me anymore. That would be against everything I believe in. But that's a show. That's not why you chose me. I was the only one who asked, what was that sacred and terrible smell in the air this time? I don't have such weakness and arrogance that I would tell you what it is. I don't pretend to know what a terrible beauty is for you. In your heart's secret. The end of the story. I'll show you. I want to tear the world apart, layer by layer. And this time, it's not a deception, a figure of speech. It's realpolitik. I attack. First Revachol, then Grad, and then further. It never ends. I open one front after another. Then, when everyone who isn't with me is dead, and the pale sweeps over the whole world, then, please. Here are terminals where you can fall dead by yourself. Go of your own free will. It doesn't mean anything. I'm evacuating the world. We'll go live in the past, in front of the polyclinic, on a park bench. You come back. You're all under the parade. The rain is pouring down, and you're talking. Your friends come across the square, in a snowy city, their collars raised. Only the memory remains of this world, an entrepreneuric catastrophe. You could never quite say exactly what it is. Even when your eyes turned inside out and staring straight into your head, you couldn't say. The ghost slipped through all the lost places. Irrevocability. I gave it to you to take. It smells in the palm of your hands. The sacred and terrible smell. Rub your face against it now. The pail is ripe with colors. It seeps from the slimy cracks. I open the rib curtains, intermediate frequencies, and all the terrible lost colors of the past come out. Everything is new again. This is where nihilism ends. This is no longer what could be or what might not be. This is it. The whole world is in the immediate zone of an entrepreneuric catastrophe.
Chapter 10. Good night, Ani. When Jesper arrives at his suburban home, the lights are turned off. He walks around in the dark, his eyes adjusting as furniture gradually emerges from the darkness. He doesn't even take off his shoes. It's clean and quiet, and over half of the wide glass windows have been freshly cleaned. Someone has made Teresa's bed. The vomit bucket of a collaboration police agent is gone, and the parquet floor shines. Mud from Jesper's winter boots soaks into the sheepskin rug. Bookshelves separate the sleeping area from the main room, and Jesper stops. He looks at the shopping bags labeled Azon, in Provence, and Tea Shop. There's a scent of green tea in the air. A tiny silver dress hangs on a hanger attached to the shelf. The fabric sparkles in the dark. Slipping between the curtains, the man enters the bedroom with his hands outstretched. Moonlight falls on the bed from the corner window. Jesper's model girlfriend, Anita, sleeps in the bed with her blonde hair spread out on a black pillow. A shadow runs along the young girl's body, which is curved with protruding ribs and a single birthmark on her chest. Jesper watches as her chest rises. He tries to remember. 4 years. They've been together for 4 years. What is she now, 19? Jesper is 34.
Psst, hey, wake up.
The girl hums in her sleep like a child.
Jesper blows in her ear, and a blonde strand of hair trembles in his breath.
Annie, wake up. It's Jesper here. Hey.
Jesper, come to bed. The girl pulls the edge of the blanket up to her chin. It's so nice and cool here.
Listen, I can't. I have to go.
Go where again?
Wake up. Let's talk for a bit. Do you want me to make you some tea or something?
I brought you tea, see? The Vasa Oranje mixed-race model stretches, her joints popping, and the black shadows move on the surface of the blanket.
Yes, I saw it. Thank you very much. That was very considerate of you.
The girl begs, her drowsy vowels long like her legs. Let's talk tomorrow, Jesper. Let's go to bed.
I can't tomorrow. I said I'm leaving.
Jesper looks at the girl's face. Silence. The clock with flipping numbers rustles briefly. The wind howls outside the window. Then the girl suddenly snorts. Don't go to the woods with your friends again. I haven't seen you at all. Let's be together tomorrow. I came for you, remember?
No, you don't understand. I'm leaving today.
Today? What time is it? The white clock crackles. 2 a.m? Where are you going like that? You've been acting really weird lately. The girl props herself up on her elbows, her mouth drawn in a worried frown. I came here because of you. I wouldn't have come otherwise.
I apologize, really. And I apologize for what I'm about to ask. But please, come out of bed for a moment. I need to move it.
What do you have there?
Things.
The girl stands on the cold floor, rubbing one foot against the other, looking puzzled as Jesper pulls the bed. The bed legs creak. The Vasa Oranje mixed-race model holding the blanket on her shoulders like a cloak. She is very beautiful, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. Where are you going? Jesper kneels and the floorboards creak in response.
Disappearing.
The trapdoor opens and Jesper pulls out a snow-white, packed suitcase. And when will you be back from disappearing?
I feel like any clever answer I could give you would be too cold, so I better not say anything.
The lock opens, and Jesper takes a package of papers out of the suitcase pocket. The girl is annoyed. She likes those Jespers. Jesper at home, making tea, Jesper being productive, Jesper being awkward when showing his support. But she doesn't like this Jesper. Please don't treat me like an idiot. This is not a cultural interview you're having right now.
Okay, then.
Jesper nervously rolls up the papers.
Do you remember when I told you about the Lund girls? That I knew them, they disappeared, and so on?
At my parents' summer cottage? The girl's eyebrows are still suspiciously furrowed, but her mouth softens at the memory. You were so drunk.
See, that's why I don't drink.
Jesper awkwardly laughs.
But you had to beg, right?
You were so funny then.
So funny,
Jesper bitterly remarks.
Back then. Okay, I was funny. But now I'm going to look for them.
Who?
Cornelius Godet. Who do you think?
The intricate bone structure creaks from the knees as the model sinks down against the wall. But you said it was pointless. You said you were done with them. Maybe you don't remember what you said? Jesper hits his palm with a rolled-up paper and takes a few thoughtful steps on the floor as if he needs to consult with another Jesper, the one who got drunk at Anita's parents' summer cottage. A very inappropriate incident. A very inappropriate Jesper. But still, he is 1,000 times smarter, 1,000 times better off than this helpless creature here. He tussles his blonde head with the paper roll and says,
There is hope.
Jesper,
you see, I have to.
Jesper places his real estate papers in the girl's hands.
Stay here. Take my house. Live here, please. Sell both apartments in the city center as quickly as you can. Prices will start to fall tomorrow morning. First thing in the morning, go to my broker. He's the number.
The girl's shoulders shake, but nothing is heard. Only the wind whistles outside the window. Jesper squats down in front of his model, his winter coat hem touching the parquet floor. He puts his hand on the girl's shoulder.
Hey, I'm going to make some tea now, okay?
The clock ticks. 2:30. The cups steam on the floor, brown sugar cubes in a square sugar bowl, and a special spoon for lifting sugar cubes. It's hard to pour, but there's no fire to light either. 2:45.
I don't understand. What does this mean now?
The girl swallows at the end of a long silence.
Well, what do you think it means?
And all this time you had that suitcase?
The girl points her index finger to the center of the room.
Like I didn't even exist.
It was long before you.
What, I had to convince you then?
Well, come on, try to understand.
Try to understand? You know what I think?
The model angrily puts her teacup on the floor.
I think this whole thing with the loon girls is complete nonsense. You're just a pedophile.
Jesper's betrayed expression is unforgettable. The girl is even surprised by the power of her words. For that, and only for that moment, she regrets them.
Okay, then.
The man stands up in the middle of a sentence. He picks up his suitcase and calmly steps out through the curtains. And then, Anita's frustration takes over again, and the naked and angry model rushes into the large room after Jesper.
You can shove your cube up your ass. I'm not staying in this godforsaken Katla hole.
Pieces of white paper fly out of her hand and scatter into the dark room. One by one, the pages fall onto the exceptionally beautiful herringbone-patterned wooden table and onto the parquet floor. Jesper doesn't turn around yet. He stops and tilts his head.
And where do you think you're going if you're not staying here? Are you going to work at the Grad ammunition factory?
You're pathetic. You and your girls. It's just pathetic. Everyone warned me, and I already knew before the cottage, too. Everyone knows. I was just 15 then. I was so stupid.
Anita pants, leaning against the kitchen counter with one hand.
Ani this and Ani that. My name is not Ani.
Jesper feels his hands growing cold. The word morbid comes back in a whirl. He remembers himself, an underage lingerie model cuddled up to him, saying,
"Good night, Ani. Good night, Ani. Good night."
I'm so happy. She falls asleep, the branches of the trees rustling outside the window like a second chance. What's sad about that? It's so beautiful. The model returns to the bedroom and shouts in an inexplicable fit of malice,
"Good night, Ani."
The human mind is naturally trusting. At first, he does not consider such a nightmare of coincidences possible. But the more the difference between Jesper's own thoughts and the mocking voice in the room becomes apparent, the slower the man's breathing becomes, as if the body were preparing to shut down from shame. He picks up the papers from the floor, one page at a time, and pats the pile on his lap evenly. He chooses his words and doesn't really know exactly who he wants to attack. The world, mostly. He walks back into the bedroom, places the papers on the bedside table, and lays out his terrible trump card.
What do you think, that you are going back to Revachol? Things are not good there anymore. Come, look at it.
The girl sits on the bed and angrily tries to put on her evening dress, not yet fully understanding what the fuss is about.
That city doesn't exist anymore,
Jesper repeats, and now the girl stands up in alarm.
What do you mean?
You know they haven't been able to make contact for about 5 days now.
I don't know. Contact with what?
Revachol. Explosion. Gone. You really should read more newspapers.
Are you joking?
Jesper, blinded by revenge, is not yet sure exactly where his lie will take him. He has an idea, but now it's too late. The girl gasps for air, her hands trembling in panic. Her nails clatter on the buttons, and the radio's yellow display lights up in the dark. The dial spins under her fingers, the hiss and squeals filling the speakers as the needle slips over the shortwave frequencies. The foreign news reports speak with nervous professionalism, everything mixed up. Her cosmopolitan mind only grasps horrible fragments. Mesk aggressor, Saint Miro, Revachol, atomic weapon, and half the population. The girl shakes so intensely that Jesper begins to fear for her health. At any moment, the fragile machine will just fall apart. Finally, a voiceover announces the death toll. The girl collapses wounded when the domestic passenger list from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs scrolls through with a peculiarly detached announcer's voice. The famous singer, Pernilla Lundqvist, recording her third studio album. Anita's big eyes are dark in the darkness. Wide with terror, she screams,
God, my sister! My sister is there! I'm so sorry, Jesper says. Are you sure? How can they be sure? Why aren't they doing anything? I don't know.
Jesper grabs his suitcase. The girl gasps like a horse. Her mouth contorts into a huge, dark scream. That mouth threatens to swallow the world. And so it does, because Jesper doesn't remember anything further. In the vacuum of the scream, white snow swirls, and the room echoes from the concrete walls.
Don't go!
Jesper has bruises on his wrist from her nails. He closes the door behind him and stands in front of the house. It's snowing in the courtyard. It's cold and the wind is whistling. His skin is hot with steam. He grabs a handful of snow and rubs it on his face. On the edge of the courtyard, at the mouth of the tunnel of fir trees, there is a black motor carriage. Therese Machahek steps out of the car in the glow of the salon and waves at him. Jesper, with his coat flapping in the wind and a white suitcase in hand, crosses the courtyard. The fir trees scatter snowdrifts in the distance. Zig, zag, drum. And then, suddenly, the world is so light, as if all meanings have been taken away from him. He is no longer worth anything. Jesper smiles. It's warm in the taxi. The machine sways as he sits across from Khan. Therese closes the door and slides inside.
How did it go? Well, let's just say it didn't go very well,
answers Jesper and collects himself for a moment.
Drive.
The night before Monday, 7 days earlier. The city explodes in the taxi window like a disco, and Therese trembles and loses his mind. Jesper holds him tightly.
Listen, he's having seizures or something. It's bad. We have to take him to the hospital.
Therese, listen.
Khan leans over his friend.
We'll take you to the hospital, okay?
No.
Therese grabs Khan's jacket.
Please.
The boys look at each other quizzically and then shrug. Therese's face is dripping with sweat.
You have to promise me. Promise me you won't turn me in.
His chin trembles for a moment, and then a vacant look comes into his eyes. His body stiffens like a log.
What the hell?
Jesper shakes Therese and puts a hand over his mouth.
He's breathing, you know. I don't know. Let's not take him, okay?
Yeah, let's not take him. To your place?
Jesper sighs heavily.
Oh, okay, to my place then. There's just one problem. A girl from Revachol is staying the day after tomorrow. What do you think? Will he be okay by then?
Khan shakes his head grumpily.
How would I know? Do you know any private doctors?
Private doctor, Khan? You can't get a license if you don't work in the hospital?
Well, yeah, but I thought maybe you know someone.
I know one regular Dr. Khan. Will a regular do?
Regular will do. Don't be angry.
The taxi rushes past Vasa at night. Sometimes Therese is linoleum salesman, then Vidkun Hurd, then Dirk Trentmöller, then Therese Matchahek again. And sometimes he feels like he's not really there anymore. The explosion of Vasa colors fills with black ink like a jellyfish. The aquarium goes dark. Therese's suit is the blackest of the black. It's made of leaves, slush on bike tires, and the sky above the city. He straightens his cuffs and adjusts his tie knot. He's formal. He's polite. The suit smells of dry cleaning, and then, like umbrellas under cemetery birches, a funeral party opens before him. Longed for, feared, all are there. At the funeral, there is the mother of the girls, with a black lace mourning veil and elegant wrinkles of concern beneath it. Paper manufacturer Carl Lund holds an umbrella over the woman's head. The birch leaves tremble. It's the end of summer rains. Kahn and Jesper are also at a funeral. Even Kahn's mother has come, and the whole class, too. They are all much older now. Therese doesn't recognize most of them, but that must be Sixten over there, and that's little Ole. Von Fersen is chatting with his lackey. And Ziggy, the naughtiest boy in school, is also there, still wearing his black leather jacket. And Jesper is the only one with a white umbrella. Therese walks through the funeral, everyone talking quietly, patting each other on the back. As he passes by, they nod respectfully to him. And the girls are there too, under piles of flowers, soft, fluffy soil. They are rows of toe bones, rib knobs, and clavicles like relics. Nothing is lost. Everything is preserved. The records are clear as a school paper. This is the magnum opus of identification, and they will teach it at the academy. And a handful of teeth, too. Madge's baby teeth. Pearls from Annie's jawbone. Malin's mean, mean canines. Everything is there. Everything fits. Every little filling. The missing piece from Annie's molar. The bike accident. And Charlotte's movie star smile. Some would have liked to take some of them from there, just as a memory. How they would clink in their hands, those precious stones. But you mustn't do that. It would be unprofessional. A doctor comes and injects saline, Monday night to Tuesday. Therese gradually regains consciousness. It's chilly, and everything at the funeral is gray and silver green. A gray tent over the black chokeberry bushes. An old-fashioned crystal on the table with fruit motifs. It's quiet. Something rustles in the bushes like a radio signal. When Therese wakes up, he realizes what it is. News of the collapse of the Northern Highway has made the public space anxious, and he has no desire to play along. Therese asks Jesper to turn on the classical radio. Classical radio, they say, plays music by dead and white-skinned men in wigs, even when the world has long ended. Peru's matrice surges. It's beautiful to listen to, like the ocean. Grave. Everyone is dancing slowly, and the more Therese thinks about it, the clearer it becomes to him that the funeral party will never come. The investigation is exhausted. By Tuesday morning, he is ready to admit to himself that they will never know what happened to the Lund children. The high heels leave imprints on the floor of the taxi. The girl crosses her legs, coral-painted toenails in a row, nude-colored straps running over her serge Van Dyks. A cluster of gemstones sparkles at the convergence point of the straps. Elegant, you'd say. If there were some vulgar crystals on department store shoes, it would be a complete faux pas. But this serge Van Dyk here, what we're looking at now, costs 10,000 real. The other one costs 500 real more. Maintenance. A single diamond jumped from the Revachol Delta to a dump. What a dizzying night. Besides, Serge Van Dijk himself said that there's a difference between elegance and snobbery. And since Serge designed these shoes, draw your own conclusions.
I'm going to Kurvitz, 1:30. It's a bit outside the city, isn't it?
The shoe size is 37, and what an arch! Like the arches of the West. The foot doctor at Kexholm Circle would give them a 9.5 on the scale of locking them up in a cellar. Out of 10. The suitcase phone rings, click, and the lid opens. But we're still looking at those 10,000 Serge Van Dijks. How those gemstones sparkle as the foot sways to the rhythm of the taxi radio. Fakkengaff, we can't get enough of it.
Hello. Bernique, darling. Ozan. So nice. I've always wanted to do something with them. No, I won't stay long. A couple of weeks.
The taxi door closes. The 13-centimeter heels tip on the sidewalk. It's getting darker. Here, it always gets darker, or it's dark. Where did the day go? White shins flash, and a view of a concrete cube opens up in the background under the fir trees. The lights are on inside. The moss sparkles, and there's a frost on the puddles before the October storms. The suitcase sinks to the ground next to the shoes in front of the door. The doorbell rings. Jesper's model girlfriend's legs seem to last forever. We crawl past them, and it seems that the edge of the bell-jingling cloak will never reach us. Before the butt curve, Mesk's fleet of world-enders, black like a pot, appears on the horizon of Revachol. In the fashion capital, they're already putting their hands over their eyes at Anita's knee bends and asking, "What's that ominous chimney smoke over the ocean, like storm clouds?" "It's open," Jesper exclaims. The girl enters, and a large room opens up before her, smelling strongly of tobacco and sweat. Jesper crosses the room from the window. There is a guy on the mattress, his greasy potato-brown head visible from under the covers. The interior designer takes the girl's suitcase and introduces her to the sweaty, overweight guy next to him. The immigrant smiles awkwardly, and when she shakes his hand, it too is warm and sweaty.
My name is Anita, the girl introduces herself.
I am Inayat, but everyone calls me Khan. You can call me Khan too. And this here, he points to the pile of blankets, is my partner, Therese Machahek. He's feeling unwell, as we can see.
Khan thinks he did pretty well. It could have gone worse.
What the hell? Jesper, why didn't you tell me you're dating a real model? Cool. If I had Anita Lundqvist, I'd be telling everyone, "Hey, give me an autograph. Hey, your sister, Pernilla Lundqvist. Right, give me Pernilla's phone number and show me your boobs. Jesper, tell her to show her boobs."
Khan ruins his jovial introduction with his laughter over the boobs. Now he's also looking at them, hidden under the girl's baggy fashion outfit.
Boobs, boobs, models' boobs, famous models' boobs.
He thinks and laughs more and more. Of course, he doesn't notice when the girl asks about Therese for the second time.
Poor thing. What's wrong with him?
Food poisoning.
Jesper takes the girl's arm and leads her to the bedroom to change. Khan uses tact and calls out from the doorway.
Hey, okay then. See you tomorrow, right?
Are you leaving already?
Wait, I'll call you a taxi. You and your taxi. I'll walk instead.
Goodbye,
the girl calls out in a friendly voice. As Khan limps along the forest road to the bus stop, his feet crunching on the cold moss, the girl puts on her pants on the bed. On her loose, bohemian fashion top is the face of Serge Van Dijk in a revolutionary two-color scheme, gray and turquoise, as if stenciled. What? It's not pretentious. Van Dijk is a kind of revolutionary too, a fashion revolutionary. the Mazov of the fashion world. Only he doesn't send the bourgeoisie to exile in the taiga of Northeast Grad. He sells them, clothes.
Jesper, who are they?
What do you mean?
You never told me about this Khan guy. And the other one?
Therese. They're just old classmates from high school. We just had a reunion. I didn't tell you about it?
No. We were just reminiscing about old times.
Hey, Therese lives in Grad. He's staying here for a few more nights, I think. You don't mind, do you?
Of course not, says the girl, but she senses trouble. She stares suspiciously at Jesper's back as he goes to make tea. The reception left something to be desired, a measly kiss. The girl paces angrily around the bedroom, but then notices a ring box on the bedside table among the books. Oh, a surprise? Is it for tonight? The box is just far enough away that Jesper couldn't reach it from the bed. Could it be? Don't think so, but it's still better to know what's coming. And besides, curiosity. The mood immediately improved. A black velvet box, a tiny box. The girl opens the box. Click. Night falls over Vasa. In the city center at Königsmalm, a fox cub runs across the intersection. Its breath colors the air blue, and it tucks its ears. The street is quiet and empty. The downtown buildings with balconies standing in a row, and yellow traffic lights flashing in window mirrors. The northern metropolis at night is a light installation, a beautiful, modern thing. But visitors are scarce. The Royal Architectural Museum in the Diredidada style looms over the river, and the facade lighting makes the building glow golden. And below, in the dark river, the river water drifts along, glossy like vodka taken out of a refrigerator. Bridges curve over it, with rows of lantern pearls on their backs. A lone cyclist rides home, with the sound of the bike rattling, and the scent of farewell lingers in the air. The advertising signs in the corners of the department store go into power-saving mode with a hum. A giant lingerie model above the payphone line smiles and disappears. Anita Lundqvist. "Child, cover yourself," says the chairman of the presidium, Supermat Nyazinski. "Aren't you cold?" And the two collaboration agents run up the stairs of the police station. "Therese Machehek! Where is Therese Machehek? You arrested him 4 days ago." This man is a man from internal affairs. He is the angel of death. "Therese who? Machehek?" The security officer waits for an answer from the machine. "We haven't had anyone by that name here." The asphalt glistens. There's a night frost and frozen puddles on the ground in Salem. Wooden houses squat on the sidewalks, and the sound of footsteps echoes from the street. And somewhere inside, in the basement, Inayat Khan toggles the lights of Harnoncourt. The only source of light is the airship model, which goes out every time it lights up, revealing Khan's face. The rows of lights on the ship's floors are reflected in his glasses. He has an idea, a flash of inspiration, one that can only be seen when all other lights go out. Khan has been waiting for this moment for 2 years. He cuts the threads, takes the airship like a baby from a cradle, and dances with it in his arms. An empty display case stands in the middle of the room. The incandescent filaments of the spotlight cool on the other side of the street. In the courtyard of the manège, the horse trams disappear into the darkness. Horses sleep in rows in the stables. Passing through the streets of the suburb, there are white picket fences with gate latches. In the distance, the barking of dogs can be heard. Window frames gleam in the dark, and wooden garden furniture stands empty on the veranda.
Who rustled in the buckthorn bushes? The night smells of frost, and the fear of the future haunts the nuclear family's dreams. And where Lovisa ends, the coniferous forest begins, and Jesper de la Gardie rolls out of bed. Anita went to sleep angrily, and Jesper is worried. But not because of that. Jesper can't find his beloved scrunchie. He sneaks around in his underwear, looks on the bedside table and the bookshelf, then puts on his bathrobe and steps through the curtains into the living room. The end of the wall shimmers in the dark from the windows, and the floor is a minefield. Milk cartons, socks, cup ashtrays. A hermit crab named Therese Matchahek is settling into his new box. The agent, with his nose against the glass, wakes up. Jesper puts a cup of tea in front of him. It smells like peppermint.
Hey, wake up. Let's talk a little. I don't know, chit-chat or something.
Okay, but I want to smoke inside.
Mouths move. Bursts of laughter are heard. And slowly but surely, the dawn starts to appear outside the window. The stockpile of cup ashtrays and cups slowly peels out of the darkness. Behind the glasses of the Café Cinema, the morning light is seeping through. It's Wednesday. Early risers are bustling about in Östermalm. The street cleaning machine is humming, and morning newspapers are falling into rows of mailboxes. Traffic is stirring. The machine operator is scraping frost from the windshield. The copywriter in his late 20s with a mustache is drinking coffee and eating scrambled eggs. Suddenly, he chokes on the coffee and runs coughing to the toilet. The morning paper is left open on the table. In the announcement section, there is a copy in Malin Lund's handwriting that reads,
"Everything is fine. We are with the man. We love you."
Below the copy is Inayat Khan's contact phone number, and the text says,
Good person, it's not too late yet. If you have information about this letter, if you sent this letter, or if you know anything new about the disappearance of the Lund children, whatever it is, please contact us.
I would like a box of Astra, with menthol. No, wait, has radar arrived yet?
No, sorry, Mr. Ulv. This evacuation stuff. No new goods are coming in at all anymore. I don't know how long I can keep this store open.
Well, in that case, give me 3 boxes of Astra, says a curly-headed, chestnut-haired young man. That blackcurrant wine from there, how strong is it?
Let's see. The seller takes a dusty bottle from the alcohol shelf. 23%.
Pure spirit, I think. Excellent. Do you have more of it?
There's 2 here.
These and the vodka, final station. It's been aged in the pail, right?
Where else? If it wasn't, I'd take it to the pail myself. It's right behind the meadow.
So a pack of matches, a pack, not a box. And those candles. No more? Oh, yes. I would also like to take this wild strawberry liqueur. I forgot to take it last time. Give the 2 you have there.
The second one is raspberry. The wild strawberry one is gone.
Well, I'll take it then. You know what? Better hand me all the alcohol if you're going to close shop anyway. And some smoked sausage, too.
All the alcohol?
Yes, and half a bar of smoked sausage.
A curly-headed young man rides a bicycle through the town of Lodu, in Lemminkainen, in the immediate entrepreneurial disaster zone. Dusty bottles jingle in the trailer, mixed with boxes of cigarettes, and half a bar of Doctor's smoked sausage, wrapped in paper. On the village road, the street lamps shine like diamonds in the morning darkness.